The next Welsh story, entitled Elidoris in Fairyland, is possibly the oldest written fairy tale we have in Wales, and it was recorded by Geraldus Cambrensis, Gerald of Wales, in 1188. Elidoris was studying in the monastery to be a priest, but like many another boy, he didn't like his books nor the hard work which learning them entailed. At first, the monks of St. David's were patient with him, in the hope that he would soon improve. But as time went on and there were no signs of improvement, Elidoris received harsher treatment, and scarcely a day went by when he was not beaten for neglected or careless work. At last, angry at what he considered was unfair treatment, Elidoris, only 12 years old, ran away. He didn't dare go home, as he was sure his parents would send him back to the monks. So he went off into the countryside to hide. He found a perfect hiding place under the hollow bank of a river, and there he curled himself up. Every now and again he would peep out, but on seeing obvious signs of an organised search for him, he stayed where he was. 2 whole days he was there, with nothing to eat or drink, and no one with whom to talk. He was quite pleased, therefore, when 2 tiny men appeared in front of him. He rubbed his eyes to see if he was dreaming, but no, there stood 2 little men peering at him with beady black eyes. When one of them spoke, he had a high-pitched, silvery-toned voice. "If you will come with us," he told Elidoris, "we will lead you to a country full of delights and sports." Elidoris readily accepted this offer. It was just the sort of adventure he was looking for, and he couldn't have stayed where he was for much longer. The little men led the way down a path that ran underground and was mossy with darkness, into a lovely country of rivers and meadows and plains and hills, whose full beauty it was difficult to see, as the sun never shone in this fairy place. Every day was cloudy, and every night was as black as pitch. There were no stars or moon. On the little men went, followed by Elidoris, until they brought him to a palace and presented him to their king. The king was tiny too, but like all little fairies Elidoris was to meet, he was perfectly proportioned, very fair-skinned, and had hair that fell thick and curly like a woman's to his shoulders. He questioned Elidoris for many hours, and must have been satisfied with his answers, for he passed him on to his son as a companion of his own age. Elidoris soon settled down, and became accustomed to the tiny horses that the little people rode, and the tiny greyhounds they kept for pets. It took him longer to get used to the food. They never ate meat or fish, but lived on milky dishes, mixed with saffron. And as soon as he learned that, above all else, the fairy people loathed lies, and that it was unnecessary in their land for anyone to take an oath. When any of them returned from their journeyings to the human land above, they were always full of scorn for human ambition and infidelity. Elidoris frequently returned to his own land, sometimes by the way he had first come, and sometimes by another, but his visits were short and secret. Only his mother saw him, and to her he described the wonders of the lovely land where he now passed most of his time. He also told her about the fairy people, of their looks, of their ways, and of their manners. On one of these visits he mentioned the abundance of gold to be found in Fairyland. "Even the balls with which the king's son plays are made of pure gold, mother," he said. "Pure gold!" exclaimed his mother. "How rich I should be if I possessed such a ball. Elidoris, my son, could you not bring me a golden ball when you next come? For one out of them all could never be missed." At first Elidoris was shocked by this suggestion. "Oh no," he replied, "that would not be right. The little folk have been kind to me. I couldn't repay their kindness by stealing one of their golden balls." Eventually Elidoris reluctantly agreed. When he returned to the fairyland, he stole a golden ball while playing with the king's son. The prince's attention was on something else, and Elidoris picked up the ball, put it under his jacket, and slipped out of the palace. He made for the path that led to the upper region, but he had not gone very far when he heard the patter of little feet behind him, and turned his head. He saw he was being pursued by 2 of the fairy men. He started to run, hoping that his longer legs would take him out of their reach. But when at last he arrived at his mother's house, weary and out of breath, the little men were still not very far behind him. Elidoris flung open the door of the cottage, and as he did so, he tripped over the step and fell down. The golden ball rolled across the floor where it lay at his mother's feet. Like lightning, the two little men raced into the room and pounced on the ball, and as they turned to leave, they gave Elidoris such scornful glances that he was unable to look them in the face. He hid his face in his arms. "Oh, wretched traitor!" shouted one of the little men. "Oh, false human!" shouted the other, and the two of them left the house. Elidoris was filled with shame at his bad behaviour, and regretful that he had listened to his mother's evil counsel, and he immediately went to find the underground passage to Fairyland, that he might make his humble apologies to the king. But the river bank revealed no passage to him that day, nor any other day. After a long time, Elidoris realized that he would never be able to return to the land where he had been so happy, and he went back to the monks and continued his studies. When he was older, he became a learned monk himself, but he never forgot the joy he'd experienced as a young boy in Fairyland, and whenever he thought of or spoke of it, he couldn't restrain his tears. Years and years later, when he was a very old man, Elidoris was visited by David II, Bishop of St. David's, who questioned him about his early fairy experiences, and Elidoris revealed that the fairy language was very like that of ancient Greek. And that is the oldest fairy tale recorded in Wales, recorded by Giraldus Cambrensis.